Kindness makes a man great. Not too many years ago, there was born in Chicago a little boy whose fond parents named him Billy Joe. As the mother and father stood by his little crib, they would put their arms around each other, and father would say, "Isn't he wonderful?" And mother would say, "Hmm, and someday, father, he will be a great man." Then father would say, "Hmm, maybe a doctor." And mother would say, "Or maybe a lawyer." And father would say, "Or maybe a preacher." And as little Billy Joe grew, the father and mother kept dreaming of the great man their little boy would be someday. Sad to say, when Billy Joe was 5 years old, he got polio and had to be put in an iron lung in the hospital so that he could breathe. His mother and father used to come and visit him. They would stand nearby with their arms around each other, watching him struggle for his breath, and with tears in their eyes, they would whisper to each other, "We thought he would become a great man someday. But now all we can hope is that he will live." For 2 years, Billy Joe was in that iron lung. Then he took a turn for the better. He was able to breathe by himself, so they fitted iron braces on his little legs and fitted crutches to his little arms, and day by day they taught him how to walk again. When he was 8 years old, the doctor let Billy Joe go home. It was wonderful for him to be home, but the children nearby didn't want to play with him. "Oh, he can't run and jump like we can," they said. It was then that Billy Joe got an idea. "Daddy," he said, "I think if I had a little puppy, he would like to play with me." "Then a little puppy you shall have," said his father, and that evening when he came home from work he put a little jet black puppy into Billy Joe's arms. It was love at first sight. Billy Joe cuddled the little black dog in his arms, and the little black dog licked Billy Joe's hands with his silky red tongue. "Daddy, I'm going to call him Spot," said Billy Joe with delight. "Look, he's black all over except for this white spot on his little head." So Spot was the little dog's name, and he very quickly became one of the family. The boy and his dog played and romped together in the sunshine day after day, and often mother and father would stand in the doorway with their arms around each other looking on. "Just look at him, mother. Look at him run," father would say. "I do declare he is getting stronger and stronger every day. Maybe after all he will grow up to be a great man." And mother would wipe the tears from her eyes and say, "Oh, father, I do hope so." A month of happy days went by. Then one morning at 10 o'clock, mother called Billy Joe inside for a glass of milk and a cookie, and when he went out into the sunshine again, Spot was nowhere to be seen. Billy Joe looked everywhere and then came hobbling into his mother. "Mother, Spot has run away from me," he cried. "I can't find him anywhere." "Have you looked under the porch?" "Yes, I have looked there." "Have you looked in the garage?" "Yes, I've looked there." "Have you looked under the forsythia bush in the garden?" "I've looked everywhere, mother. Spot has run away from me." "Oh no, I don't think Spot would run away from you," said mother. "He loves you too much. He must be just asleep somewhere. Here, Billy Joe, sit here on the porch steps, and you see, soon Spot will wake up and come running to you." With a sad, heavy heart, Billy Joe sat on the steps and waited, but Spot didn't come running to him. At last father came home for lunch, and still Spot hadn't turned up. "He's run away from me," wailed Billy Joe. "Oh no, I don't think he's run away," said father. "Wait, I'll go down the street and ask the children if they have seen him anywhere." In a little while father came back with a worried look on his face. "Nobody has seen him anywhere," he said, and then added, "Billy Joe, the more I think of it, the more sure I am Spot didn't run away. Someone must have stolen him while you were inside drinking your milk." At that Billy Joe just cried and cried. "I want my Spotty to come back," he sobbed. Father tried to comfort him and said, "Don't cry, Billy Joe. I'll buy you another dog." "I don't want another dog," wailed Billy Joe. "I want my Spotty." "Well, I'll do my very best to find him," said father, and then added, "I'll tell you what, I'll put an ad in the Sunday newspaper and I'll offer such a big reward that whoever has him would rather have the money than the dog." Only then did Billy Joe dry his tears. When Sunday morning came, Billy Joe and mother and father anxiously scanned the lost and found ads. Yes, there it was, all right, and they read it over several times to see how it sounded. "That ought to bring him back quickly," said Billy Joe. "Shouldn't it, mother?" Mother had to take her handkerchief out and blow her nose and wipe her eyes before she could answer. "I surely hope so." But hope as they could, the telephone was strangely quiet that day. "Hasn't anyone seen the ad or the dog?" they asked each other over and over again, and that night sadness settled down over their house, as if there had been a funeral in the family. The next morning, Father didn't feel like having any breakfast and went off to work with a heavy heart. Mother and Billy Joe didn't want anything either. Billy Joe didn't even want to play in the sunshine. He just wanted to stay inside where he could hear the telephone if it rang. Maybe, Mother, they didn't read their paper till night time, huh, Mother? Billy Joe said with all the hope he could gather up. And maybe, Mother, and even while he was talking, the phone rang. Hurry, Mother, shouted Billy Joe. The phone's ringing, and maybe it's about Spot. Hurry, Mother. Mother dropped what she was doing, wiped her hands on her apron, and rushed to the phone. And as she sped down the hall, she prayed. And please, God, if it is possible, please give Billy Joe back his puppy. She lifted the receiver, and a woman's tired voice said, "We have just read your ad in the Sunday paper. We have a little black puppy that looks like the puppy you described. It jumped out of a car at the filling station near our house the other day. The man thought the owners would come back for it, so he kept it all day, but when they didn't come back, he gave it to our little boy Davy. But of course, if it is your dog, it wouldn't be right for us to keep it." She then gave her address, and Billy Joe's mother said, "Thank you so much for calling. We'll come over as soon as we can." "It's Spot, all right, isn't it, Mother?" shouted Billy Joe excitedly as he danced up and down on his braces and crutches. "I knew it was. Can we go as soon as Daddy comes home for lunch?" Mother tried to tell him not to be too sure till they saw him, but Billy Joe just knew it was Spot, and with his eyes sparkling like diamonds, he hobbled out to the front of the house to watch for Daddy to come home. "Of course we will go now," said Daddy when he heard the wonderful news. "Come on quick. You and Mother get in." Father took the piece of paper with the address on it, and in about 20 minutes the car pulled up in front of the house. It was an old house, but the yard was tidy, and the front porch was freshly scrubbed. "Well, this is it," said Father, as they all got out of the car and walked up the front steps. Father knocked on the door. In a minute, a tired, worried-looking woman opened the door. "We came to see about the puppy," said Father. "We don't know how our puppy could get away over here, but if it is our puppy, we will be glad to pay you well for your trouble." But the woman didn't reply. She took one look at Billy Joe on his crutches, with his little legs in those iron braces. Then she clutched her heart with her hand and moaned. "Oh." Silently she motioned for them to come in. They followed her down the hall. She opened another door and again motioned for them to enter. And there in the middle of the floor sat a little boy about 6 years old, hugging a little black dog in his arms. It was Spot. "Davy," said the tired little woman gently, "the people have come to see about the dog. You know, I told you if the owners came for it, you would have to give it up." The little boy turned his head toward them. He had a lovely little face, but his blue eyes were blank and expressionless. And suddenly they realized that he was blind. They couldn't move. They couldn't speak. They stood there as if they had been turned to stone. "No, no, Mommy, he's my dog. The man gave him to me," cried little Davy. The little dog gave a little yelp of recognition when it saw Billy Joe and struggled to get free. The tired little woman slumped into a chair and began to sob. "It's the only pet he's ever had," she said. "We had no idea he would love it so much. He will hardly let it out of his arms. It even sleeps under the covers with him. I don't know what he will do without it, but I wonder, would you kind people consider selling the puppy?" "Sell Spot? You might as well talk about selling a little brother. No one would ever think of such a thing. Anyway, if there was going to be any selling, Billy Joe was the one to do it. It was his little dog, and it took Billy Joe just about 1.5 seconds to make up his mind. He hobbled 2 or 3 steps closer, as if he were making a very careful inspection. Then he said as bravely as he could, "No, Davy, that's your dog. You don't have to give it up." As the kind words sank into little Davy's heart, tears glistened in his sightless little eyes. There were tears in Billy Joe's eyes too, as he turned away and hobbled off as fast as he could down the hall. "Hadn't we better go home now?" he at last said to his father. But father couldn't speak. No one could. The tired little woman followed them to the door. She tried to say thank you and goodbye, but her heart was too full. They just waved goodbye and scrambled into the car as fast as they could. "How could you do it, Billy Joe?" said his father at last as they were riding home. "You knew that was your Spot." And Billy Joe stuck out his chest, lifted up his eyes, and said, "Yes, Daddy, I knew. But, Daddy, I can see to pick out another dog, and Davy can't." At those words, Father stuck out his chest, and Mother put her arms around both of them and said, "Daddy, Billy Joe doesn't have to wait till he's grown up to be a great man. He's great already, for only a great man could be kind like that."